The man should be paying all of the bills, correct? That is the conversation that I had last night with one of the women that I've been talking to. And we're going to talk about this today. Should you be going 50-50 with your woman, or should you be paying all the bills? This is a debate that's been online for a very long time. And the way that we're going to break into this, I'm going to show you a few statistics with sources. And we're going to talk about, one, how many women are in the workforce today versus the type of women or the amount of women that were in the workforce in the 1950s. We're going to talk about how do men and women spend differently. And then we're going to talk about what is the median income in America, the average amount of money that somebody is making in America. And we'll summarize that up to whether or not it makes sense for a man to go 50-50 with a woman in a relationship, or if he truly should be taking care of all of the expenses. So let's get started with the first thing I'm going to show you here is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that in 2022, about 56% of women are in the workforce today. That means, what you're looking at this chart that I've got up here, that based on the age range of the woman that you're going to want, you're probably going to want a younger woman to get married to, because let's talk about marriage. That means if this person's going to be your wife, I think that's the only reason you should be considering if you're paying all of her bills, unless you're one of those guys that says that you're just never going to get married and you're going to always have a girlfriend for life. Then I guess that changes it for you. But either way, you look at this chart, you see, based on the age ranges, most women up from their 20s and above are in the workforce. That means most women are making their own money. Keep that into consideration as far as whether you should be paying all of her bills along with yours. Now, if we go back into 1950, which is one of the reasons this conversation even began, is because most people are thinking about the traditional 1950s wife, where women did not work as much, their rights were not the same. And so, to me, it financially made more sense that if men were working, doing most of the working and making most of the money, it makes sense that they would take care of most of the expenses. So when you look at this chart here, this is also reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Back around 1950, only 1/3 of women were in the workforce. So that means back then in 1950, most women that you met would not be bringing in some type of income that would be significant for survival. That makes sense that if you met a woman back then and you say, well, I make money and you don't, or I make way more money than you do, I'll just take care of all the finances, and you stay at home because you don't have a job anyway, and you take care of everything at home. I'll probably contribute some finances to where you can purchase things from the grocery store while I'm at work. That all made sense in 1950, whereas I don't see why it makes the same amount of sense in 2024. Now let's move on to the next part of the argument here, is what do women spend money on versus what do men spend money on? Statistically, it shows that women are the main consumer. They buy most of the consumer products in America are purchased by women. They control most of the consumer economy. I've seen many statistics all over the internet. Most of them average out about 80% of consumer spending is done by women. And guys have to understand that if you get married to a woman, she's going to be spending on things that you may not think is a good idea. And that's because just the way women spend, their habits are a little bit different. And so you would have to adjust to the fact that if a woman has money while you're in a relationship with her, she's going to spend way differently than you. And that can cause financial issues down the line. Versus if you had all the money in the relationship and you had to give it to her or monitor it, the type of spending can be controlled to a degree. So those are the plus and minuses of knowing how women spend. There are statistics that show men spend more on like leisure things. We know guys, we tend to have a lot more hobbies, and that is what we spend our money on. And that's something to consider as well, I guess, for the women that are looking to give it a man. Men are going to spend more on food and alcohol, usually, and leisure activities and leisure items, things that further our hobbies, like cars, boats, other things like say if you're in a nerd, you're going to spend more on video games, things of that matter. No matter what you're into, guys tend to spend more around that realm and not so much on consumer products like food and groceries. Now, with that being considered, does that mean that the man is spending recklessly? It's all about what two people believe are the right things to do with their finances. So let's move on to the third point here is, what is the amount of income required to go 50-50 or to fully support someone? It shows here that most people in America make about $59,000 per year. This is the average. You can look up the statistics for your own state and see if that's in line with your state. It's probably not. But either way, think about a man that makes $60,000 per year. What if he meets a woman that makes $60,000 per year? I want to do this example specifically because one thing I think those internet conversations miss is the fact that most people are average. Most people aren't making six figures and above. The statistics show that. We know that. And so when we have conversations like this, we need to be talking about what are the average people doing, because we know average people are getting married and getting into relationships every day. Average people are having children. So the information needs to apply to most of the general population if we're going to have a general discussion. So I would say if two people are making $60,000 per year, logically, does it make sense for one man with $60,000 to pay for two adults with his $60,000? And what is the woman's money doing? If he's paying all of the bills, does she just get to save if that's his wife? And are those savings guaranteed to the man in the case of a divorce? What if they do not stay together? He is less likely to have savings because he's spending all of his money on their expenses because they're following traditional 1950s values for when the woman could not work. This is just my opinion, but based on what makes logical sense. So I want you to think about that for yourself. If two people are making the same income, does that rule still apply in today's day and age? Because we are no longer living in the past. We are living in the current time. And I believe most people have to assess their situation based on what's going on with them. Two people have to discuss this with themselves and not worry about what other people think, not worry about what society has told you and what you've been taught. Because we have also been taught that when we were younger, that Christopher Columbus was a hero. But if you know the truth about the dealings of Christopher Columbus and what he did as he was exploring, you will find that that may not be the perception that everyone has on Christopher Columbus. And so I need you to reevaluate for yourself what makes sense for your life. If you're a man watching this, which most men watch my channel, consider, why do you pay for all of the woman's expenses just because you're a man? Is it logical sense behind that? Does it mean anything? It means that you will probably have less savings. That's what I'm going to tell you. You'll probably have less savings, and she's going to have more savings. Unless you get a prenup, you're probably not going to be entitled to it. It's no guarantee. And then I just think you need to have a woman contributing financially. If she's making money, it just makes sense. If you two are in a relationship together and you're both trying to survive and have vacations and eat well, go grocery shopping, take care of the house, I don't see why she would not be contributing financially if she truly cares about you also. It seems more natural that women will contribute. They can buy household items, they can buy the groceries, they can pay maybe a small bill or something like that, and the man can maybe pay majority of the bills with his $60K. But I believe realistically it's just smart for both individuals to have their own amount of savings also if you're going to be married. And I know everybody's values are going to be different, but this channel is about what I think. You can share what you think down below. And the key point I'm getting to is, with all of this information, I really want you to just think about what makes sense for your life and your relationship only. All of these conversations where people are saying just like they can't do 50-50, all that stuff, that is something that's personal to them. So that's what I understand, and that's what's going to work for you as well, then that's fine. But keep in mind that most people do not make that amount of money that you see on those videos. So do the math. Understand that women should contribute if they make money, in my opinion. But based on these statistics, they are making money. So why would you be taking full care of a woman? And we didn't even touch on the conversation of if somebody has kids, because that changes it altogether. If somebody has kids, some people are getting with women that have kids before them. So now they have to take care of the woman's kids, the woman and themselves on $60K a year. People are doing this, and people are doing this on a lesser income as well. Tell me what you think about those three factors right there. Number one, how much money is the average person making today, men and women? How many women are actually working? So the chances that you're going to meet a woman that actually makes money today. And number three is, how do men and women spend differently? And if that's going to make a difference in your relationship based on what a woman is going to spend her money on while you're in a relationship, does it make sense that she has her own money, or versus you give her money based on the income that you're bringing in because you take care of all the expenses?